Hey, what's up, guys? Are you guys ready for a little pocket change market report action? I know I am. This is the midweek edition of this famous video that I do every single week, where we talk about some of the most relevant errors and varieties to have sold here in the last couple days. I like to do this just to kind of illustrate the kind of money that you can make off of selling your personal finds, things that customarily you could come across in coin rolls, going through loads of change. You know, maybe your kids' piggy bank is feeling a little bit left out in this conversation, but not any longer. A great way to kind of just really look for some of the coins that people are pursuing. In addition, there are folks that actually go to coin shops and shows and cherry pick otherwise unattributed by dealers errors and varieties. Most of the time, a lot of these big dealers, they don't really care about what they consider to be the minor stuff. So this is going to be an opportunity for each and every single one of you to take advantage of that, to really add something neat to your collection at a very low price, or to flip, resell, and make boatloads of money. There's a myriad of ways that you could do this, and I've been doing it for quite some time with pretty tremendous success. All right, so this report is for August 24, 2022. We're going to be looking about roughly the last 72 hours of reported sales straight from eBay. All of the images that you're going to see here today are original to the listings. I didn't do anything specific. I didn't make them look better or anything like that. You are going to get exactly the images that are on these seller listings. All right. So, and another thing as well before we jump in is that none of the coins are graded. All right. Well, except maybe one, but not in the way that you think. But the reason why I don't talk about graded coins in this video, it's real simple. All right. The coins will sell themselves. Grading and attributing these coins through PCGS or NGC costs a lot of money. So if you think you're going to send off that $20, $40, $50 coin and get it graded and then think all of a sudden it's going to be worth 5 times the money, you better think again. Sometimes it really doesn't make too much difference. And I would say 99% of the coins out there, they just don't need to be graded. They can be enjoyed as is. So make sure you guys know that when you're looking at this report every week. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this. It's not the final one for the month of August. We do have at least one more coming up here on Saturday. But we have a nice little selection here. And this is kind of like one of those things you can find out there. And it's so innocent and minor that I'm willing to bet a vast majority of the folks out there, they really miss stuff like this. But it's a $10 bill, obviously. It's a new one too. It's a 2017 series. But if you look at the bottom right set of serial number there, you're going to see that it's got a little bit of a shift of that number. This is commonly referred to as a gas pump digit or a turn digit. All right, it's very minor. It's within the BEP tolerances. But still, collectors love these things for whatever reason. All right. Again, there's no wrong way to collect, but people like these, and they are, while affordable for them to collect into, as sellers, you can actually make some pretty decent money. For example, this $10 bill here ended up selling for $19.99. By the time all the smoke clears and shipping's been paid for and the eBay fees have been taken care of, you're probably going to profit around $10 or $5 on this note. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Again, very minor in retrospect, certainly worth holding on to. It's going to be better to find something like this on a $1 bill because you're going to realize a lot more profit off of a much smaller denomination than you would, say, a $10 bill or higher. So something to keep in mind. Again, these are probably not quick sales. They'll sell whenever the market commands them to, but pretty neat otherwise. All right, so much like the $10 bill, this thing's really not fancy at all. I mean, it looks like a really well-worn penny. It's a 1989 Lincoln Memorial cent. It's stained. It's got some scratches there on the obverse under the date. Really, who pays attention to stuff like this? Well, us cherry pickers do. That's who. So when you look up close here in one of the bays of the Lincoln Memorial, there is a die chip. All right, so that's pretty cool. And again, another thing to be on the lookout for that at first glance seems very minor, and some of you probably think there's really not a whole lot of value here. But this one right here ended up selling for $5.24 with 2 bids. So a $5 bill for this rough-looking coin, sign me up any day of the week. All right, Brian Rybar, who is one of the well-known attribution folks out there that does a lot of varieties, has a pretty nice eBay store. All right, so he sold a few more coins here this week. Here's the 1948S Lincoln Wheat Cent. This is a repunch mint mark variety. It is RPM, or WRPM, number 34. So there's quite a few RPMs for this date, but you can see using these arrows here, just kind of like the tilted fashion of the S, the first initial S. Quite minor. Probably best left seen on much nicer looking coins. I would imagine on a much more well-worn, circulated Lincoln Wheat Cent that this is going to be a hard RPM to look out for. But in nice shape. That's actually pretty good. This one sold for $18.90, which is a really good amount of money considering that a mint state 48 is not rare and you can generally pick one up for under $1. So, pretty good cherry picking here if you got the opportunity. Here's another one here as well, another 48S RPM. This is WRPM, and by the way, the W stands for Wexler. He's the attributor of this coin. This is WRPM number 5. All right, so this one here, a lot better. Still, I'd prefer to kind of find one of these in mint state condition. The splits and all that stuff are just going to be a lot more defined on something like this. But you can see the RPM right here. The repunched first primary S looks to be west of the main one. This coin right here ended up selling for $21.90, and that price difference between this and the previous one is simply just overall appearance of the coin, or the variety rather, than anything else. So I saw this one, and first I was like, man, I can't believe someone actually spent this thing. All right, so this is a 1963 $1 bill, and it looks to have a faded signature right there on the left-hand side. And it looks very familiar because that is indeed the signature of the Treasury of the United States at that given time. So this was something common that we saw back in the 50s and 60s. They call this a courtesy signature, where the actual secretary and treasurers would actually sign these. Oftentimes you're just going to see one signature. This one was, of course, signed by Miss Granahan. I think that's her last name. Catherine O'Day Granahan. And I have seen the courtesy signature of Henry H. Fowler before. And I think at one point or a few occasions I've seen both signatures on there. So, yeah, this one is pretty well faded, but someone did find it. And even with a faded signature on there and with considerable circulation wear on the note, these things are very well collected. And because of that, this one sold for $41. I know these get up to about $80 to $100 with a nice bold signature on there. But again, this is something that occurred during the 60s and, during that time. And these were a lot more available then. These particular courtesy signatures are not hard to find at all. You could go on to a auction site like Heritage Auctions and find these in graded holders. There's a little bit of a close-up there of that signature. You'll see that matches almost to a T to their to the facsimile one on the note. All right, what a pretty error here. We have a 1983 P Washington quarter. It's roughly about 25% off center. It's a very nice condition coin, too. Now, it's not a particularly rare date. We've seen 1983s on the PCMR on a number of occasions with varying degrees of off-center strikes. This one right here is sold for $53.80. Just a really good coin that's end up going to a good home. All right, so we got another piece of currency, and we have a number of pieces of paper currency on the show this week. Here's a $100 bill. This is the big head pre-colorized era of note. 2006A is the series, but you can see some misaligned print there on the overprint. The green district seal is a little bit out of place, and you can also see a partial serial number there on the left-hand margin. I would imagine that this note was maybe printed twice or once, and the sheet had shifted, you know. Kind of hard to say. These things, you literally have to be sitting in front of the printing press to know exactly how something like this happens. But the note seems to be in pretty decent shape. Nothing that would scream, hey, this thing's not that great. It does have a little discoloration, a little staining here in certain areas on the back of the note. This one right here ended up selling for $227.50 with 26 total bids. So it sounded like, or it appears that there were quite a few currency error experts that wanted this note really bad. Now, this is a really neat two-coin lot right here. I actually quite enjoy something like this. So we have two errors here. The coin on the left is a Lincoln cent that was struck through a very late stage cap die. All right, so that's something that we have talked about on this program quite extensively, at least once a week. So, you know, that one, not really a big surprise of what that one is. The coin on the right, however, we don't talk about too much because so few of them pop up as a legitimate error. But that 1995D Lincoln cent there on the right side is actually missing the copper plating. And no, it wasn't done. It's, you know, in some sort of shenanigan kind of way where someone had actually acid dipped this thing just to remove the plating. Because if that were the case, you would see all sorts of corrosion and pitting on that coin. But this one actually exhibits quite a bit of luster. All right, and that's a telltale sign that you're dealing with the real deal right there as far as that type of error goes. So with the cap die strike, you do have a really strong reverse strike on there. And then the other coin there, you even see more luster on the reverse. That is just a great example of this error. So this pairing sold for $77.50. So I don't think there's a ton of opportunity to buy this just to flip. But I think it's just a really good sale of two very unique type of U.S. Mint errors that traditionally don't come up too often on the secondary market. All right, so like the 83P, this is another one that we see on occasion. It's a 1994 P Roosevelt dime. It's off center by about 10%. And this coin sold for $28.30. Again, these type of errors are collected generally by date. So if there's a specific date that's a little bit tougher to source out, people will ultimately pay a little bit more for something like this. So $28 is pretty good for this coin, considering that there aren't too many Roosevelt dime collectors, but there is probably a lot more error collectors than that. All right, always good to see one of these. There was actually a few of these Wounded Eagle Sacagawea dollars that sold here in the last couple days. Here's another one. 2000P is the date to look out for. Very common, very, very much well produced into the millions. What does this one look like? Well, you're going to see the die gouge. It goes right through the breast of the eagle on the reverse. And normally there's also going to be a second shorter type of die gouge in there as well. So that's a little something to look out for. This is a great find right out of a Coke machine. All right, so a lot of these earlier Sacagawea dollars were used in vending businesses. So a lot of people are not only finding this through going through vending machine change, but also going through rolls at the bank. Oftentimes these rolls are sitting in a vault because nobody really wants them. But now, really good reason to get them because these are common and they're worth quite a bit of money. This one sold for $103.66. Not bad, considering it's not the best looking example. All right, more currency and a $5 bill. Now, this is an older one, 1950. So the note itself has some issues. It's got some circulation wear, but at the same time, it has some sort of like oil staining there on the top left margin of this note. So to a lot of folks, that is a detractor, condition-wise of something like this. But when you equalize it with a very impressive gutter fold error, you could throw those little minor issues out the door. This one has not only that long, diagonal type of gutter, which is caused by just simply a wrinkle in the sheet prior to the printing process, but you also have a few really nice gutter folds there on the bottom right side where the word 5 is kind of split out like an accordion. This is a very impressive note. This one sold for $156.89, and 30 total bids got it to where it is sold at today. We've seen quite a few of these. Here's just another one. This is a 2000 Lincoln Memorial cent. It's a broad strike error, so the collar was not present during the strike action to keep the coin in that chamber. So the metal flow has to go outwards. So the coin is a lot bigger than a standard Lincoln cent. I would probably guess that it is closer to the size of a standard U.S. nickel. This one sold for $23.69. Again, one of the more common dates of this type of error. The pictures aren't great, but this seller ended up selling a really nice coin. And we're seeing more of these. I think the word's getting out there that these are very, very nice finds. It's a 1982 Roosevelt dime. But it's missing one important detail, and that's the mint mark. These normally have a P mint mark on all of the Philadelphia minted coins. So when you find one without it, that's a really special variety. So this one right here is considered the strong version, where it has a nice heavy strike. There's also a weak version of this particular variety as well. So if you find one without a mint mark, that's a keeper. This particular example sold for $89.99. So there were a few of these Washington crossing the Delaware, the aforementioned crown die chip that is right atop the head of George Washington. Right here on the reverse, so this is a little bit smaller form of this crown die chip attribute, and again, these things used to sell for a ton of money, and because of the newer errors that are coming out on the newer coins, it would seem to be that these have dropped in price. But did they drop all the way to zero, or is there still value to these? I'm happy to say that this one sold for $34.64. So search on, play us, and keep finding more of these because they still have a pretty good attachment in the pricing department. And I would look for these myself if I had the ability to go through P minted rolls of this. Now, keep in mind, this coin is coming up on a year old here. So there's going to be a few examples available out there in nice shape. Take advantage of this coin and this error while it still commands a pretty decent price tag. Now here's another quarter. This is on a much newer one. This is the Sally Ride edition of the American Women's Series of Quarter. This time a 2022, and it is also a Philadelphia minted coin. This one has some pretty heavy die file lines, or what we call feeder finger scrapes, right here in these areas where there's a red arrow. So this is actually a very, very strong example of this, one of the strongest I've seen for this particular quarter. But if you look here also on the left, right in this little crux between the ponytail and neck, there's more feeder finger scrapes there as well. All right, so good one to look out for. This particular example sold for $23.98. Solid sale and very, very visually stunning. So So there's more newer quarters, 2021 Tuskegee Airmen. Again, this is a coin that made waves last year because of that pretty nice strike through. So this one has the strike through right over the building, along with a few feeder finger kind of lines here as well. Yeah, so this one, much like the Crown die chip, surely has dropped in price, and some of them have. But did they go all the way down to rock bottom? Not quite. This one surprisingly sold for $74.25. The bigger strike-through events of these quarters still sell in excess of $100, even to as high as $200. They're still very desirable. Again, the placement of that strike-through on the coin is going to give it all sorts of more credibility to the collectors that want them. All right, star notes. Again, another good thing to look out for. This is actually a tougher star note run at 240,000 notes printed for this run. But also another thing to keep in mind, it does have a filled star. So we have a little over-inking of that star there on this 2017 $1 bill. So the note sold for $105, but it looks like the seller had relisted it. So I don't know if it's the same note or if it's another note, from the same run. It's kind of hard to say. But yeah, the question is it worth that kind of money for a low, print run? It can be. It can be. Again, I think, the right people have to be available to buy these things. And it's not going to be a quick sale. That's for sure. So, yeah, I think the error of that filled star also played a little bit of a role in why this one's worth a little bit more money. This is a big date here. Lots of repunchment marks from 1960, and we're talking about the large date style Denvers. So this is a pretty well-known RPM. It's RPM number 1 on all of the main attribution sites. The coin itself is actually in decent shape, for not being new. So this is what you're looking at here. So you got that secondary D that's punched west of the primary mint mark. Again, it's very strong. It's very dramatic. And, if you have really good vision, you could probably see this one with the naked eye. This coin sold for $11.04. So it's also one of the more common RPMs out there. Just a really strong looking off-center strike. This one struck probably about 90% off-center, but check that out. It's got a full date. That doesn't happen too often with these insanely off-center type coins, but the full date certainly gives this one a lot more credibility in the marketplace. The coin sold for $106.94. I'm willing to bet this is a little bit tougher date to find of an off-center strike. Another cool one here, the front of the coin looks off-center, but the back is almost pretty well centered. What we have here is what we call a misaligned die. So the front die is grossly misaligned compared to the reverse die. So, that die was a little loose during the striking process. It jostled a little bit, causing this kind of like dual anomaly here. Coin sold for $31 with 2 bids. That's a very strong amount of money. Yeah, pretty good. That's a good sale. So here's the other Crown die chip on the Washington crossing the Delaware quarters. This one is a lot larger and it goes into the letters of E pluribus unum. This is the more advanced stage. This is the one that you want in terms of value. This one sold for $59.99. I guess these things are no longer over $100, but they're not nothing. That's, a good bit of gas in someone's gas tank, still to this day. So make sure you're looking out for these. The coin in question here has a little bit of circulation wear, so it's not perfect by any stretch, but always a big coin to find and to monetize off of it if you can. There's a little bit of a close-up for you on this one. This is the one we've seen quite a few times. Oh boy, another big quarter. I mean, quarters have been ruling the day recently. So this is the brand new Nina Otero Warren. Okay, I'm going to start calling this the Now quarter because that's the, the abbreviation, NOW, the Now quarter. This one's actually pretty neat. and a very notable sale. We've seen a few of these now quarters sell. And this one right here has a pretty good strike through. Again, it's kind of like that field restricted style of strike through. This one sold for $27.75. There was also another example that sold for right around $30-$40. Another $1 bill, this time 1995. Check out that overprint. It's misaligned to the right. All right, pretty easy to see why this one's on the list. Grade-wise, it's a spender for a lot of people. Very well circulated. The note sold for $44.99 with 13 bids. And here's another tougher off-center strike, this time on 1991 Lincoln Memorial Cent. This coin right here is in really nice shape. I'm willing to bet there were a number of people that needed this for their date set, and this one fits just nicely. Yeah, it's off-center about 30-35%, somewhere around there. This one sold for $18, so that was a nice quick grab. And yeah, I mean, if someone's selling this for cheap, you can buy these and then flip them and do really well. Now, this is a much tougher coin. Once you start dipping into the older dates and going into the obsolete wheatback design, that's where things get a little bit interesting. This is a 1951D Lincoln that is off-center by about 10%. And the coin is in decent shape, albeit it does have a few rim digs on the reverse there. Right underneath the right wheat stalk. This particular coin sold for $68.78. Again, you know, that's kind of like the norm for these. They just don't show up on the marketplace too often, and people do need them. And same with this one, this time on the 68, another tough date. This coin looks to be in pretty nice shape. The pictures really don't do it justice, I will say that. There's not enough luster present on this coin to really sell me on the fact that it's a mint-state coin. This one sold for $35.95. So this one, much tougher. We see more 68Ds than we do Philadelphia's. All right, so we have a coin, a little update here on the Wilma Mankiller with the retained cut obverse, and also one other example later in the show toward the end with the reverse crack as well. This one also exhibits a lot of that strike through on both sides of the coin. Good looking coin, and this is kind of like your big money coin to find out there in circulation right now. If you're looking to scratch and claw for some extra cash for the holidays, this is a great coin to find. And they're being found all over the southeastern region of the U.S., even as high up as North Carolina and Virginia. People are reporting finding these as well. This particular coin sold for $277.80 with 18 bids. There are actually a number of these available on eBay currently, so we'll see how that affects the overall value of these. There always seems to be a point in time where the market is more flooded because the coin's new and everybody's looking for it. So that's going to, of course, mess with the value of the coin. But as these things dry up, you're going to see the prices rise back up. Now, here's another one of those very strong 1982 missing mint mark Roosevelt dimes. This is a very exceptional coin here. This one sold for $200. Now, this is the graded coin I was talking about, but it's in a PCI holder. It's a grading company that has no credence whatsoever in the grading scene of coins and currency. So I felt like I was compelled to add this one to the list. Someone can certainly take this, crack it out of that PCI slab, and send it off to NGC or PCGS, all right, and do just as well with that method of, regrade. Here's another one of those very impressive struck through cap die coins. This is actually a 1979 Lincoln cent. There's just enough date there to find out what the date is, but this is a very clean example. This one sold for $83.94. Beautiful example. Another great coin to look out for in circulation. This one is showing all sorts of circulation. It's a 2020 Lincoln Shield. Yeah, what's Lincoln smoking there? Maybe his pipe tobacco or something. But yeah, that's another one of those field restricted strike throughs, and they come in different sizes and shapes, and some are a little thinner than the others. But this is where they're being found at, coming right out of his mouth, and I think it's really neat, and it's aged pretty gracefully. This one sold for $18 is what this one did. And that's even taking into account some of the circulation wear. It's even got a rim ding right here under Liberty. And again, guys, if you're going through Buffaloes, make sure you're always looking out for the 2 feather varieties. There's a lot of different dates to look out for. So these are simply abraded dies or over polishing, and it virtually eliminates this 3rd feather that's normally right here. This is a 1917S, a little bit tougher date, and it's pretty well worn. I would say it's probably a good 4, somewhere around there. This one sold for $40. So you could essentially take a coin that you've cherry picked for $1 or $2 and turn it into $40. And that's kind of how you get this game started, and it's a fun game. All right, so here's our Road Rash coin. You guys saw the thumbnail. Man, poor coin. Was in a parking lot, got run over a few times. You couldn't quite tell looking at the reverse of the coin. It still looks okay, but man, that front of the coin is chewed up. And that's unfortunate because on this one, it has a raised cud, a very, very thin, skinny cud that goes into Lincoln's jacket area. And this is a very well-known one. I haven't talked about this one, but this one's been out there for a couple years now, and it's impressive. Yeah, it's as big and it billows off the coin as you would expect. You can feel it with your finger. If you rub against the surface of the coin, you can feel this bump on there. So even with the damage, guess what? It's still sold for $13.75, and that's with 3 bids. Without the damage, I would be certain this is a $50 coin plus. They're quite rare. They're a lot more rare than anything else you can find in circulation right now. But yeah, another coin to keep an eye out for. There are more of these that exist out there in varying degrees of size. So very impressive. And we're going to end off the PCMR this week with the other variant of the Wilma Mankiller quarter. This time this has the not only the retained cud on the obverse there above Washington's head, but also that impressive die crack on the reverse that goes through the star and halfway through the coin. This is the main line featured error for this year so far, and this got as high as $825. But the prices are kind of still all over the place. This particular example sold for $670 with 22 bids. Again, I'm a firm believer that these coins will dry up, number one. Number two, we're going to see much more activity on these going through the fall season. That's when a lot of collectors come back into the hobby and enjoy it the same way that they left back in May. So we'll see how this one is going to shape up and progress as we go through the rest of 2022. But it's a big money coin. If you're looking to find a way to pay off that rent payment or the car payment or some credit cards, look no further than your local bank. Again, these are being found all over the southeast region of the U.S. Florida seems to be the biggest concentrator of these quarters and this error. So look out for it while you still can. That opportunity is going to dry up here as more of the American Women quarters continue to release. So yeah, that's going to go ahead and do it for this edition of the Pocket Change Market Report for August 24th, 2022. It certainly was a lot of fun. So we'd love to hear your thoughts. Did you have a favorite coin out of the list that grabbed your eye? Go ahead and post it below in the comments section. In addition to any other comments or questions you may have. But also, if you have some pretty neat finds, we're also looking for new submissions for our Monday live streams on the Live Coin Q&A YouTube channel. So if you do have anything that you want to share with us or you need some questions answered, go ahead and send your clear photos to info@livecoinqa.com. We have a dedicated panel that can help you out. So not just me, but we have a number of folks who have been in the hobby for quite some time. But that's it, guys. Go ahead and go out there and, do some hunting. I'm going to be doing the same here by the time the weekend rolls around. And, hopefully I'll find something for myself too. So you guys take care. Have a great day. And I'll see you on the next coin video. So long.